My name is Marley Bird and this is the Yarnspirations YouTube channel. In this video, I will show you how to make a 2-color granny square. For this square, I am following the Prismatic Chromatic Crochet Blanket pattern instructions. You can see here that the square is divided up into 2 colors, and you change the colors mid-round to get that really great look. As you are working along, you will carry up the color every time there is a color change, but don't worry, it doesn't show up in your work. It looks really nice and seamless. This pattern is free and available at yarnspirations.com. Go ahead and click that link in the video description box below, and you can follow along with me in the video. I will be using some worsted weight yarn and a size H or 8 or 5mm crochet hook and some stitch markers to help you find your place. Go ahead, grab that free pattern, your materials, and we can jump in. We begin this pattern with a basic slip stitch that we will then place on our hook. You want to make sure that you leave a nice tail that you can then weave in later on. We will now chain 3. Once you've chained 3, we will slip stitch into that very first chain we created, and this will give us a ring. What I mean by that is, you see how right in the center there, let me see if I can grab something here. This center right there, okay, that's where the ring is created, and that is where we will be placing the stitches we will create on round 1. Still with color A, we do a chain 3. And this chain 3 counts as a stitch. So I will grab a stitch marker and I'm going to place a stitch marker in that last chain I created. So if you are looking at your work, it's that V that's right behind the loop on your hook, okay? And that will let you know that that's where we will join our stitch at the end of this round. Once we've done that, we now will work 2 double crochet into that ring. So we're working completely around all of those chains. Okay, so that's 2 double crochet. Altogether, that counts as 3 double crochets, okay? Now you chain 2, and that is a corner. And now we want 3 double crochets, all into that same ring. So there's 1, and 2, and 3. Now we chain 1, and then we're creating another corner here, but we're also going to change colors. So we will drop our old color, grab your next color, and make sure you leave yourself a tail so you can weave that in later. And as you yarn over your hook and pull that loop through, that is a chain 1. Okay, so you don't need to join with a slip stitch. You join just simply the chain 1 has the new color on your hook, and that's your join. Okay, if you do a slip stitch and then a join, you actually create an extra chain there. Now that we have our new color on our hook, I am going to completely ignore my other color. I'm not going to carry it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to ignore it. And I will continue on with my pattern. So working into this ring again, I will do 3 double crochets. There's 1, and 2, and 3. Now I will chain 2. Let me grab some more yarn here. Chain 2, and then I will do 3 double crochets into that same ring. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now I chain 1, and I'm going to join now to that chain there that I have marked. And we are going to join not with another chain, but with a half double. So I yarn over my hook. I will go over here to that chain that I have marked, okay? Let me try and move that yarn out of the way so you can see. To the chain that I have marked, so I can go ahead and remove my marker, go into that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops, okay? What that does is it puts my working loop that's on my hook in the middle of this chain 2 corner. So we have a corner there, a corner here, and corner here. And we've officially divided up this square into 2 different colors. Can you see that? Now, unlike other granny squares, we are not going to continue working in the round, always facing the right side of our work. We will actually be turning our work, going the opposite direction as we work this square. We continue on by turning the work, okay? And this would be round 2, and I'm using my color 2. I chain 3, so 1, 2, 3. Once again, that counts as a stitch, so I like to grab my stitch marker and place it into that 3rd chain that I just created, which is the loop behind the loop on my hook. I shouldn't say the loop, the chain behind the loop on my hook. Now I will yarn over my hook and I will do 1 double crochet in the beginning space created by the chain 1 and the half double. So in this space right here, I will do 1 double crochet. And essentially I'm working around that half double I just created. Can you see that? Now I continue on working in pattern, and this is where my repeat begins. We begin with a double crochet into each double crochet to the next chain 2 corner. So I will double crochet into the double crochet from the previous row until I get to that chain 2 corner. When I get to that corner, I will place 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space. So there's 1 and 2. Now I will chain 2, so chain 1, chain 2, okay, because that counts as my corner. And I will do 2 more double crochet into this chain 2 space. We're maintaining that corner space there. You see that? Okay. Now I continue on and I will work a double crochet into each double crochet to the next chain 2 corner. And that's where my color change is, okay? So I'm going to work all the way over to that corner. So I have 1, 2, and 3. At this corner, I'm not only creating a corner pattern, but I'm changing colors. When you come to the corner, it looks like there's a lot going on because there's a lot of string happening here. The first thing I want to do is take the tail from when I started with this color and I'm going to move it out of the way. I'm not going to crochet over top of it because I will weave it in after the fact. Now I want to make sure that my color I will be switching to is out of the way also, so that way I can pull it up when I need to. I will now go ahead and carry on. So I yarn over my hook and working into this chain 2 space, I will work 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2. Now I chain 1, and for the next chain I'm going to drop the color I'm working with. Make sure it's back here towards the back of your work. Pick up the color we're switching to, it's the color that's still attached right here, and just pull it up, yarn over, and as you pull that through, that counts as a chain, okay? Once you've done that, you will just leave the other color hanging out, don't do anything else with it, and now we need to continue on. So we yarn over our hook, working into the same chain 2 space, work 2 double crochets. There's 1, and 2. You'll notice that yes, the float of that color is right here, but it is disguised because it's right next to the stitches that use that same color, okay? I now will carry on with round 2, working a double crochet into each stitch till I get to my next chain 2 space. When you get to the next chain 2 space, we are not changing colors. So it's as easy as working 2 double crochets into that space, and then a chain 2 and 2 double crochets. Okay, I need to work double crochets all the way over to the next chain 2 space. And you'll notice this is the start of the round, so it might look a little different. Let's get our double crochets worked into those stitches. And then when you get over here, remember the start of our round worked around that half double crochet, and then this was our original chain 3, which counts as a double. So we will be working these next stitches right there, okay? So I yarn over my hook and go into that space to complete 1 double. There is my second double. Now I chain 1, and this is where I'm going to join, but once again, I want to join with a half double. So I yarn over my hook, come over here to where that stitch is marked, that chain is marked, get my hook into there. You know what? It's easier to get in there without the marker in it, so I'm going to take my marker out, but I know that that's my chain, so I can get into it rather easily without the marker and complete my half double. Once again, that puts my working loop on my hook right here in the center of that chain 2. And you can see here, all of my floats or all of my tails are on the wrong side of the fabric. And that is important because the pattern mentions that we need to carry our colors on the wrong side. So we want to make sure every time we change color, it's on the wrong side. I now will turn my work to begin round 3. And I begin with the chain 3, which counts as a double crochet. So you know the drill at this point. I like to grab my stitch marker and put it in that 3rd chain I just created. And again, it's that V right behind the loop on my hook. Now I carry on and I will do a double crochet into this beginning space. Essentially, it's around that half double. So I will do my double crochet right there. And I continue on. I will place a double crochet into each stitch until I get to that next chain 2 corner. Pretty simple. When you get to the chain 2 corner, you will do a series of stitches right here in the corner to maintain. So we will do 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets all into that space, and that maintains that corner out there, okay? Now I will do double crochets all the way across to this next chain 2 corner, and it's at that corner I change colors once again. When you get to that next corner, there's a couple things we need to make sure of before we just start doing our double crochets. The first is we want to make sure that the color we're going to be switching to is easily accessible. So I always make sure it's pulled over towards the left. And then the second is you want to make sure that you are working into that chain 2 space. So always confirm you're in that chain 2 space. You can find the spaces below, and then it's easy to find it. So then you will yarn over your hook and begin the first double crochet and the second double crochet using the color that you're working with. Chain 1. Now you will drop the color you're working with, making sure the yarn is to the back, okay? Pick up the new color, simply carry it up, yarn over your hook, and pull that yarn over through. That completes 1 chain. Now you will yarn over your hook, working into that same chain 2 space. You will do 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2. Once again, you will notice the float is right there, and because it's right next to the stitches of the same color, it doesn't really look super noticeable. You can move your double crochets over a little bit to kind of hide anything that is showing up, but that's how easy that is. Now I will just continue on working my double crochet into each stitch until I get to the next chain 2 corner. When I get to the next corner, I will work 2 double crochets into that space, chain 2, and then 2 double crochets into the space. Continue by placing a double crochet into each stitch until I get to the next chain 2 space, which is also the beginning of this round. So it gets a little bit funny down there, but we can work through this together. One more. Okay, here I am. I'm to the corner, so I will place 2 double crochets around that one, chain 1, and then a half double join into that stitch that I have marked right there. So make sure I go into that stitch and place my half double. That's the end of round 3. You can see that we're getting the 2 colors happening here. We finish off round 3 by turning our work, and we will continue on with round 4. This is the 4th and final round, so let's get to it. We begin with the chain 3, just like we did the other rounds. I will place my marker into that 3rd chain. Just like the other rounds, I start off with a double crochet into that chain 2 space, okay? So it's around that half double. Now I work double crochets until I get to the next chain 2 space. When you get to that chain 2 space, we are not changing colors, and we know that because our yarn is over here waiting for us, and also we don't have a color change over there. So we will do our 2 doubles, chain 2, and then 2 doubles, all into that chain 2 space. Work double crochets over to the next chain 2 space into each of the stitches. When you get to that space, make sure that your yarn is in the correct place. Again, I always make sure it's over to the left, so that way as I'm working these stitches, I can easily get to it. It's not in the wrong place and crossed over incorrectly. So I have my 2 doubles, chain 1, drop my color I'm working with, make sure it's to the back, pick up my new color, just carry it up, yarn over, and pull through, and that's a chain. Okay, now I will work 2 doubles into that same chain 2 space. See that? I can go ahead and cut my other color, make sure I leave a nice long tail so that yarn is out of the way, and I carry on with the rest of the round. So I have double crochets into each stitch to the next chain 2 corner. When you get to the corner, place 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space, chain 2, and then place 2 more double crochets into that chain 2 space. Now we will work on the final side here, where we have double crochets all the way to the last chain 2 corner, and that is the start of our round. When you get to the start of the round, once again, we want to place 2 double crochet into that chain 2 space that we began with, chain 1, and we end with a half double into that marked stitch. So I'm going to take that marker out and work with our half double. I always do a chain 1 to fasten off, so I chain 1, cut my yarn. I always leave a nice long tail. Once you leave a nice long tail, it's important you weave in your tails very securely, especially if you're going to make a blanket or an item that will be used and washed multiple times. Crocheting over your ends just doesn't cut it. You need to make sure you weave them in securely. Let me show you what I mean. You can see that my square looks very lovely right here on the right side. We put all of this work into it to have the two colors, and we don't want it to come undone. So it's important that we weave in our tails and make it nice and secure. So I always like to grab a bent tip tapestry needle, and I will thread my tail into my tapestry needle. Then I always will go multiple directions through the stitches to make sure it's nice and secure. You can see I went up this way, and what I'm going to do now is I'm splitting the actual yarn, and when I come back the opposite direction, not only am I going through those stitches, but I'm also going through the yarn itself that I just pulled through. That helps the yarn grab onto itself and really secures it into place. So I went up, I just came back. I'm going to do that one more time, go in the opposite direction. Again, I'm going to cut through the yarn and the stitches, and as I come back up, it really secures that into place. I am confident enough that that is not going to come undone. Let's grab some scissors here, and that is done. It is so quick just to weave in these tails right after you finish each square, or as many squares as you're going to complete. Don't wait till the very end to weave in your tails. It is a daunting process once you do that. I'm going to come down a little bit ways. Okay, so notice I'm trying to work into the same color as my tail is. So I got my tail over here to this color. Now I'm cutting through the fiber and back. And I'll do that one more time. I'm cutting through the fiber and the yarn itself that I'm pulling through. I'm cutting through it and I'm pulling it back. Okay, that is nice and secure. This is a much better way to finish your items so they don't come undone the minute you wash them. Trust me. All right, so I'm up here at the top now. So this one here is a little tricky because we're at the top edge. So I like to come down. You'll notice I'm coming right in the middle of that V, and I'm coming right down. And then I'm going to cut over here to where I can get to this post, because that post has a lot more fabric that I can work into. So now my yarn is over here, and I can cut down this post. Again, I'm cutting through the fiber. And I'm doing all of this on the wrong side. I hope you guys noticed that. And as I come through, I just repeat my process. I'm going to pop through this way. Okay, so I took my tail that was all the way up here and I've worked it down to here. And now I just go back. So I cut through my fiber, come back, and then I do it again. Cut through the fiber and come back. That's why it's important to have a nice sharp tapestry needle, yarn needle, chenille needle, whatever you want to call them. And one more, don't forget, you have this one up here. Again, this one is up here, so I will usually bring it through that V. Can you see it's through the V right there? And I will cut it down the post of the stitch so that I can get it down here really to where the start or the bottom of the stitch is, because it's easier to work through the yarn down here. So I will thread it through this direction a little ways, and here we go. So I brought the yarn from all the way up here. I'm down here to this part, and I will thread through. This is not a very difficult task, and honestly, if you do it as you work along, it gets done very quickly. So that was 3. I'm going to do one more just for good measure here. This, by weaving in your tails just like this, it allows your work to withstand the test of time. And so this little square that you created with all of these beautiful color changes can be a piece that your entire family will want, and dare I say, become an heirloom. All right, now you know how to create a two-tone granny square. Good luck.